Could letting go of your ex actually help the two of you get back together? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Please stay tuned through to the end because we're going to be talking about some specific things that you can be doing, as well as answering some questions that are being left in the live stream section here. But before we go ahead and get into that, hello, my name is Clay. Welcome back for another video. We're here with modernlove.life to help you get the great loving relationship you deserve without having to play mind games, without having to play hard to get, and without having to pretend to be someone or something that you are not. Why? Well, it's because you deserve to be loved for the unique, amazing, and wonderful person that you are. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. Can you let go of your ex to get back together with them? And the answer is yes. Letting go is an interesting concept. You know, sometimes people will think that this is, some sort of cosmic joke. If you want something that you can't get it, and then when you don't want something, you then get it, and it causes people to get all these sorts of unhealthy mindsets about things like relationships. People might end up thinking things like, hey, we all want what we can't have, or whoever cares the least controls the relationship, and all sorts of stuff like that. I don't necessarily believe in these sorts of things. We can talk about those at a different point in time. But what's really going on here at an energetic level is that we may want something. We may want the relationship, or we may want the partner, or we may want, something else that's not love related, whatever, success, wealth, job, career, whatever. But what happens is when we desire something, when we want something, oftentimes our attention is placed on the lack of that thing in our life. When we focus in on the lack, we are only going to accentuate the lack. And when we focus in on something else, we're only going to accentuate that. And so what we want to do is we want to say, okay, where is there this separation in my life right now when it comes to this relationship or this situation, or whatever else it could be that you're working on in your life? Where is my energy? Is it focused in on separation? Is it focused in on how what I want isn't there, how it's not materialized, how it's missing in my life? That partner that I had who's not there anymore is missing in my life. And now I can feel their loss. I can feel the pain as I think about, 1 month ago is when the breakup happened, or 1 year ago is when the breakup happened, or whatever else it might be. And I can, look back at pictures in my phone and say, oh yeah, we used to be going to this place, but now I'm going there alone, or whatever else it might be. That's causing us to focus in on the lack of that thing that we want in our lives. It's causing us to accentuate that and for that experience to grow. And what happens when we let go, many things happen. But what happens is we actually start to pull our energy back towards us. And one thing that I've been talking about with a lot of coaching clients recently is this idea that we have this sort of wall within ourselves. And many times, for a lot of different situations, we may end up thinking, okay, it's all right for me to feel certain things, but then there's this wall, and if I let myself go on the other side of that wall, then I'm not going to be able to handle it. I'm not going to be able to make it, whatever the case might be. And so, it could be like, okay, hey, if I allow myself to think or feel the possibility that I might not get back together with this person and this relationship could be complete for what it is, then I may, then that somehow is going to make it happen. We put out that video a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, on, if I let go, does that mean I won't get my ex back, right? And so That's not necessarily true. What happens is that you then start to allow yourself to feel all these feelings that you've been energetically pushing away and saying, like, no, hey, I can't let myself feel this. And now suddenly you let it in, you welcome it in. And then what's important here is that you actually sit with it and learn to accept it. I'm not just saying like, hey, let in the pain and become overwhelmed by it and cry and then feel depressed. No, I'm saying like, let the pain in, let the thought that this might be it come in, sit with it, be with it, learn to accept it. And then once that happens, the emotional charge of it disappears. And you'll find this sense of peace, knowing that you are going to be okay no matter what. That you are going to be okay no matter whether or not you end up getting that relationship back. And when that happens, you have energetically and emotionally let go of an attachment to outcome. And when that happens, there's no longer this resisting energy. There's no longer this lack energy. There's this energy that says, hey, I can be okay if this relationship works out, and I can be okay if it doesn't work out. It's not an indifference. You can still have your preference, right? Many of you may know that what is it, maybe about a month and a half or so ago, my mother actually had a heart attack, and I got a call from her. She said she wasn't able to breathe very easily, and so I was like, okay, like I'm gonna come over. We're gonna take you to the hospital, and they're gonna check you out. And so I drove for 2 hours to the place where she lives, and I picked her up, and she was, having a hard time breathing. And that's always kind of unsettling as someone to see your own parents in not very good shape. And so I drove her to the emergency room, got her checked in and everything. They had some people come and look at her and run a bunch of tests, and they admitted her, had her stay over for several nights. Well, they did more tests and eventually did an angiogram, which is, if you watch enough of those TV shows, that's where they stick the like little squiggly thing up your blood vessels, and it like looks for things. Then it turned out that it looked like she did have a heart attack, and that one of her blood vessels was blocked or constricted in some way. And so they had to schedule a surgery for her in the hospital in the city. So they had to wait for an opening there. Then they had to transport her over there, get her settled in there, and then do the thing over there. And so I was basically over there with her for a week, taking care of things for her, driving back and forth to the hospital, getting things, picking up medication, doing chores, taking care of her cat, and batch cooking a bunch of stuff around the house so that she wouldn't have to worry about what to eat for the first, several days after she got out of the hospital and all that stuff. Anyway, during this whole time, I'm of course having this big emotional experience. I imagine it's like this for pretty much everyone. But when you stare down the possibility of your parents potentially not making it, and by the way, like it. I'm not very good at telling this story because I always keep forgetting to put the end. But by the way, she seems to be doing okay. There's still lots of follow-up appointments and everything like that. She's doing a lot better. She can breathe now that they got the fluid out of her lungs, because I guess when you have a constricted or blocked artery, it causes fluid to pool into the lungs. And so they took care of that. They fixed her up. They put a stent in her blood vessel, and she seems to be doing a lot better. But anyway, as I would imagine most people, when they see their parent not doing so great and staring down the realistic possibility that this could be it, feel a lot of uncomfortable feelings. And the usual, probably typical response to all of this is not acceptance. It's to push away what's happening and to say, no, this can't happen. If if my mom passes away, then I'm not going to be able to handle it. It's going to be like, too difficult for me. I'm going to be shattered. Like how could it be that my, 4-year-old daughter won't get a chance to know her grandmother in a deeper way, all this sort of stuff. Right. And that's that wall, right? That's that wall where on one side it's okay. Then we start to hit that wall. And then on the other side, there's the darkness. And that darkness is where all of these thoughts and feelings live. What's it going to be like when my mom passes away? What's it going to be like if things don't go the way that I want them to? What's it going to be like if I don't get back together? What's it going to be like if this truly is the end of the relationship? And if you let yourself go over that wall on the other side of that, and you sit in the other side of that, in that darkness, and you sit there and you learn to find peace, you learn to find acceptance in that darkness, an interesting thing starts to happen. It starts to seem less intimidating because that wall is coming down. That wall is coming down. There's no longer this division within you. This is okay, this isn't. Now you start to learn everything is going to be okay. Now you start to learn that, hey, I can have a preference. Obviously, I want my mother to continue to live and to be healthy. But I know on an emotional level, not just an intellectual level, but on an emotional level, that things are going to be okay no matter what happens. I will probably, if my mom does pass away, I will probably feel the normal human response of, mourning and grief and all of that. But I know that I'll be able to handle it and I'll be okay. It's not going to be something that, permanently emotionally cripples me or anything like that. And so this has actually freed me up a lot more to deal with whatever it is I need to deal with, over that week or so that I was actively dealing with all of this stuff, and also, over whatever may happen in the future. And so letting go is an important thing for a lot of people, not letting go to give up, right? It's not like you're just giving up. You can have a preference still. When my mother wasn't doing so well, it's not like I'm just like, oh, I guess this is it, Mom. I'm not going to come pick you up. Sounds like this is it. I'm giving up. Maybe you can get some bus money and try to make it to the hospital or something like that. No. Like I still did what I needed to do, because a lot of times people mistake letting go with giving up. But really what it's about removing that wall and teaching yourself on a deep emotional level that you're going to be okay no matter what. You're going to be okay if you get the preferred outcome or if you get something different. You're going to be okay. And when you get that, and when that switch flips, when that switch flips and you really get it on an emotional level, that's when energetically all of the energy, all of the intention isn't just in the lack, the resistance, the suffering, the, hey, they're not here anymore. Hey, woe is me, my mom is sick or something like that. But it's actually in something different. You've managed to be able to call it back to you because it's not out there in resistance. And now you can use that energy and intention to focus it on something that you actually do want. By the way, if you like this video, please make sure you give me a helping hand here with a thumbs up and a subscription to this channel, and hitting that bell icon as well too. As well, it would also help me out with my low self-esteem if you drop a comment in the comment section as well too, letting me know that you find this sort of stuff helpful so that I feel encouraged to keep making it. If nothing else, it'll help out with the YouTube algorithm. But anyway, when you do this in a relationship sense, your energy is no longer on the lack. And now, because it's no longer on the lack, you're not perpetuating this cycle of lack. And you're able to see things with a clearer sense, because you know that you're going to be okay if you get the relationship. You know you're going to be okay if you don't get the relationship. And as you do this, as you continue to move forward, an interesting thing kind of happens, which is that you're actually more likely to get the relationship. Why is that? It's because, number one, we're not in that place of lack. So emotionally, we're not in that place that we have on this channel called before damage control mode. You're actually able to bring more of yourself, more of your authentic self to interactions, more of your authentic self to your day-to-day life, more of your authentic self to what's going on in your situation. And when that happens, you're able to be more self-expressed. You're not going to be walking on eggshells. You're not going to be governed by anxiety or insecurity or fear. You are just going to be able to show up as you. And as you continue to show up as you, and as you continue to show up as hopefully the best version of you, the most inspired version of you, the person that you've always wanted to be, then what's going to happen is you're going to draw people to you that actually want to be with that version of you. And, chances are, since you were in a relationship with this person to begin with, they probably saw some little, something in you that pulled them towards you. And if you can show them that again, but without all of the neediness and desperation that comes from lack, and also without all of the problems that caused the breakup in the first place, there's a very high likelihood that that person is going to be drawn to you as well. And that is truly how you go about this process of letting go to get back together with your ex. Now, what can really help a lot of people with this is to work on how they are bringing themselves to their situation, their mindset, their emotions, etc. And one thing we have is, maybe several months ago, I put together this video, this 8-hour-long video for you to listen to while you're sleeping. It's a subliminal recording, and basically it reprograms you while you're sleeping. You have me in my velvety voice whispering little affirmations into your ear while you're sleeping. And the intention is for it to help you to embody and to take on new emotions and beliefs, etc., that will help you to have a stronger, healthier relationship. Anyway, that is down below in the description section. Try it out tonight, try it out for the next month, and see what happens. I mean, hey, what do you got to lose? You're going to sleep anyway. You might as well use it to your advantage. With that being said, once again, thank you so much. Please make sure you have hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel. With that being said, let's go ahead and see what folks are talking about in the comments section. Okay, so we have a super chat here from Kyle. Thank you very much for that, Kyle. Again, I don't, do these live streams specifically for super chats, but it's my understanding that I am bound by the etiquette of the internet to respond to all super chats. So I'm going to do those first. Kyle says I had to let go twice of my ex and I split. First was so I could move on and focus on myself. Then after months of reconnecting with my ex, I realized I had to move on again because she was coasting and didn't take the time apart to work on herself. She jumped into a rebound. A few months later, she broke it off and finally working on herself and focusing on her goals. Unfortunately, that also means she is kind of shut down right now. Oh, here's something else. Not sure if that's part of it. Anyway, part 1 of apparently 11. Hey, Clay, I'm the guy that went camping with his ex of 6 years, ended her rebound that lasted 1.5 years over a month ago. While camping, I tested the dark room by trying to cuddle that final night. I mean, how could someone say no with a face like that, huh? Anyway, point number 2. We then had the us talk. She was a bit upset with me and made comments like, I'm sure there's someone better for each of us out there. She presented herself towards me emotionally detached. The talk ended with me holding her from behind and held her hands like I used to when we were together, something I know she loved from me. She didn't push me away, just accepted it. I think she was upset with me because she did say that she wanted to be friends. She made that decision to leave the rebound and doesn't want someone like me deterring her from her goals. This is hard because I've told her before that I want to work with her on goals like moving outside of the city, but I think she has it in her head that I am not 100% into moving. I've told her my desire to move has changed because I want more peace and quiet and space to foster and train dogs. So there's a good reason behind the move. Her rebound showered her with love for the first year, which she was missing from me. She said she's never felt so loved. She knows I've changed and acknowledged the changes months ago. My inability to display love and emotion was due to my depression and the meds that I was on. She knows that this is no longer an issue, but she hasn't been able to directly experience how I express love now. Question is, how do you show someone how you would display love and affection as a partner if they don't want to receive that directly from you? My hope was that the cuddle would open her up to being closer to me so I can fully show her how I treat my partner, both verbally and physically, but that did not go as planned. So, how would you do this without coming across as desperate or I need to be happy or I need her to be happy? She has seen how I now show love with friends, family, etc., but not how I would treat her as my partner. Thanks, Clay. Okay, so with this, first start by getting clear with some things, letting go, like we talked about. And then from a place of letting go, well, from a place of where you can zero out being attached to outcome, what really is probably going to show up for you is okay, well, how is it I want to interact with this moment? How is it I want to show up with this person? And it sounds to me like you want to show up as love. You want to show up as someone who cares and has affection for this person. So then what I'd encourage you to do is to embody that. Embody love and affection. Embody what that means to you. And then carry that forward, not just when you're with her, but also when you're with anyone else or when you're just by yourself or when you think no one is looking. And just bring that into your day-to-day life, because the more you embody that, the more of a habit it's going to become, an emotional habit. And the more of an emotional habit it becomes, the more you're going to unmemorize other things like anxiety or fear or attachment to outcome or something. And the more you're going to almost habitually start to just embody, selfless, caring, affection, and love. And that's going to start to come through in all of the small things that you do, all the things that you maybe realize that you're doing or not doing. And that's going to have a huge impact. And I think maybe in some capacity, you may have conveyed this when you did that sort of cuddling thing when you were camping. And it seems like she didn't fully dislike it because, she accepted it, even though you had a sort of, heavy talk about stuff beforehand. And the thing is, as well, too, we want to understand that things aren't always going to have an A causes B kind of result here. Okay. It's not like you're going to cuddle with her and then she's going to, cuddle you back in that moment and then things are going to get a little spicy and blah, blah, blah. I mean, could that happen? Sure. But things can also unfold in a non-linear sort of way as well, too. So, you might have cuddled with her that night. She says, hey, this doesn't feel so bad. Maybe Kyle isn't the same person that I thought he was or whatever, but she didn't act on it. And so she just sort of thought about it. The next day she went through her life and she was kind of in the back of her head. Yeah, that felt kind of good. Yeah, that maybe that's something that I would want more of. And she sort of weighed it out over the next several days or maybe even weeks. And who knows, maybe that's somehow changing her trajectory towards you in a way where she's maybe a little bit more receptive, maybe a little bit more open. Maybe she's a little bit more inclined to be receptive towards maybe future advances of some sort. I don't know. But that's really what I'd recommend that you look at and observe. Like, are you noticing her warming up to you a little bit more? If not, number one, keep showing up as that idealized version of you, full of love and compassion and affection and selflessness and all of those things that it sounds like you want to embody here. But then also, if you need to, have a same team conversation with her. If you need to, maybe try something like that again. And if she has some resistance to it, just say, hey, sorry, old habits die hard, or whatever the case might be. And just start to notice if these things start to affect how she interacts with you. Either right then and there in the moment, like A causes B, or maybe something else like, hey, we had a cuddle and then, maybe a month later, you seem a little bit more receptive to me for some reason because you've had some time to think about it or process it or feel it out or something like that. Anyway, Kyle, I hope that helps you out there, buddy. And please feel free to drop us an update, next time. Scrolling through, it looks like there's another super chat. I'm not seeing it right here. Oh, there we go. We have one from Austin who says, "Hey Clay, it's me again. Relationship of over 2 years involved me breaking up with her multiple times and being unappreciative, partly because she said some things. Partly because she said some things like 'I will never leave you' and let me walk all over her. She eventually said she wanted to be friends." After being abused by a stranger, she has obvious lack of trust and didn't think I would stay with her. I said I saw her as a lover, not a friend. Um, I said oh, that's the same part. I saw her as a lover, not a friend. Then a week later, I was overly positive, asking to be friends. She said, "Too soon for friends. I think I need time." I sent an accountability letter saying sorry, and I do see her as my best friend. 6 weeks later, and text a week after that, but no reply. She is in the wall of reactance, and it has been another month of no contact. I have two things I want to send her. Should I send a more explanatory apology for saying no to friends, or something to help her show I care about her and I'm not messaging her for myself, or any outcome? I want to be friends with her again and strengthen our emotional connection, but think she is hurt and resentful, and she probably doesn't trust my intention for wanting to be friends. So, oh, it jumped there. Okay, so she won't reply to me. I'm afraid to contact her and push her further away. That's everything. Thank you so much. Okay, so what I'm going to recommend that you do here is to really start by letting go of any attachment to outcome that you might have here, much like what we talked about earlier on in this video. Can you sit with the possibility that, hey, maybe you never hear from her again? Can you sit with the possibility that, hey, maybe you might message her and she won't respond? Can you find some sort of comfort in that? Can you find some sort of peace of mind and acceptance in that? It doesn't have to be like, hey, this is awesome, she didn't write back to me. You can still have a preference, obviously, but can you find some sort of peace in that? If so, great. From there, it sounds like you're not sure if you should send her, one of two different messages here. I would get to that emotional place first. Go through the process that we talked about. Get to the emotional place first. And then at that point, make that decision and say, which of these two options feels like the most authentic expression of where I'm at right now? Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's some third option. And then go ahead and go with that. Because we can orchestrate certain things here. We can try and force things along from one step to another, but it's not necessarily going to be helpful if we are not being fully expressed and the other person is not fully accepting of us as we are, as fully expressed, right? So, I want you to be you. I want you to be the best Austin that you can be. I want you to be the Austin that you want to be. And I want you to be loved for that version of yourself. And if you're not loved for the version of yourself that you are, then part of me is like, okay, well, is there some sort of misunderstanding here? If so, maybe we need to, work through that with, some techniques or something. Or is it that this person is just not the right person for you because maybe they have different values or just in a different place in their life or whatever? If it comes down to the techniques and such, I would probably consider explaining everything that happened to her from your point of view. Explain how it affected you, explain all of that stuff. This would be what we'd call the fresh start message. If you're looking for a quick way to explore what that is, go ahead and check out Connect and Commit over at modernlove.life/cc. It helps you out with 7 specific situations. One of them would be something that would involve a fresh start message. Anyway, that's something that I'd recommend that you check out there if you need to. But first, I'd really work on that emotional stuff that we talked about. Next up, we have Michelle. That's part 8. Where's part 1? Let me just scroll back here. Okay, part 1. Hey, Clay. A lot has happened. Turns out the girl my ex likes was my friend, and he lied to me. Uh, and he lied to me. Um, she told me the truth and said that she didn't feel the same, and friends don't go for each other's friends anyway. Okay, sounds like you got a good friend there. I confronted him on this and his lies, and he was more surprised she had told me and had strung him along. Anyway, today we decided we were going to start no contact, and she says that is the only way we could work things out and be friends because she does want to be friends one day when he gets everything sorted out. Oh, because he does want to be friends when he gets everything sorted out. Well, talking, he opened up about everything that's happened with my friend, and he admitted to falling in love with her. At first, he thought it was a rebound, but then he got feelings, then love. This was all within 3 months, but now he has messaged her and said that they should speak and maybe should not speak, and unfriended. Oh, unfriended her on the only contact thing that they have. We are now in no contact. What I don't want and still have hope, what I don't mind and still have hope. I am also a nice person and not sure if I should help them make it work and talk to her, um, because he doesn't know if her feelings were real or not, as she told me she didn't like him and told him he wasn't wasting his time, and they were even going on a date later this month. If I do help them, it will ruin all my chances of ever getting him back, or should I just let them deal with it and just stay out of it and focus on me and on him? Well, even better than focusing on you and on him is to focus on you. So, I mean, what my overall stance on this would be is like, okay, hey, my friend and my ex, they had some sort of like quasi romantic thing happening there, but it didn't work out. And so, is it really my job to step in and to try to make things work there somehow? I don't think it's necessarily your responsibility to do that. But again, go through your own journey, work on your own emotions, and decide what the right thing for you is. But it sounds like it's something that the two of them have to work through. Um, you could, if you really wanted to, you could see if they would be open to you somehow assisting in this process. But really, I think it sounds like they need to work through all of this. And likewise, you and your guy need to work through how the two of you are connecting as well too, especially if you're in no contact right now. What I'd recommend you do, I mean, I don't know how you'd really help them anyway if you were in no contact, but what I would do, again, broken record here, but go through the letting go process that we've described here in this video and see what the right thing for you to do is on the other side. I know it's easy to think about like, okay, well, what do I do after that? What's my next move after that? But you have to understand, if we're in one state of being now and we're going to be in another state of being later on, trying to plan things out from one state of being and saying like, hey, when I'm in a completely different embodiment, emotional state, that's when I'm going to implement this plan that I set up in this first emotional state. Like, that's probably not going to be a good use of your time, because if you're, I don't know, afraid, insecure, anxious or something now, and you make some plan, when you're hopefully feeling more at peace, that whole plan you might look at and be like, this is crazy. Why did I want to do that? Like, I want to do totally something differently instead. I want to do XYZ instead. So take care of the emotional stuff first, and then start thinking about what your next thing might be. But I think, it sounds like for the most part, you're going to want to get on terms where you're able to communicate with him and open up and be honest with him about some stuff. And so what is it that needs to happen between not talking to getting there? Well, I'd imagine you probably have to have like a same team conversation, get back in contact at some point, embody certain changes that you've made, etc. And I'd recommend you do all of those sorts of things. But that's really what I think it sounds like you should do here. But very, very first and foremost is I'd really recommend that you work through that emotional stuff there. Anyway, I hope that helps you out. Just checking time. Next up, we have a question from Sharon. Sharon, is this the first one? I think so. Sharon says, I went to Paris and texted my ex back and forth a little bit, sent him pictures of cool art, and he never responded. It's been 2 weeks now, and I feel like it's best to leave him alone. Do you agree? Well, I don't know too much about your situation here, but based off of what I am seeing, it seems like you went on a trip to Paris. You sent him a couple pictures. He didn't respond. And you basically just, what do we do now? Okay, so first of all, you were texting him, you sent him some pictures, and then he didn't respond. My question would be, did you ask his opinion on something? Did you make a conversation about the pictures, or was it just the pictures of some art? Because if you didn't really try to engage the conversation by saying like, oh, hey, look at this one, it reminds me of something else. Like, what do you see in this one? That's kind of letting me know that maybe you were dialing back the level of investment, and he sensed that and said, okay, well, she doesn't really want to talk. She's just sending pictures of art or something like that. But if you instead were able to engage him and bring the conversation into more of a focused point, discussing the artwork or talking about your emotions about the artwork, and then segueing that into like more emotions in general, maybe use that as leverage to get into a phone call or something like that. I think that probably could have been more effective if we were to, use rear view mirror analysis, which is always 2020. But where you're at right now, should you leave him alone, or should you follow up in some way? Well, I mean, again, it depends on where you're at right now, but I might consider, if you really want to talk to him, if you really want to connect with him, I'd probably consider doing that, unless there's some reason that you shouldn't. But I would consider doing that. Oftentimes people will make these dating or relationship choices based off of, like, hey, is this going to make me look needy or desperate or something like that? What's really going to help you to avoid looking needy and desperate is doing all the stuff that we talked about at the beginning of this video, working through that gap of separation to the point where deep down that you're going to be okay whether this happens or not. That's the best way to let go of neediness. As long as you have this belief, as long as there's that wall that says, hey, as long as this looks like it's going well, I'm going to be okay. But if it doesn't go well with this person, I'm not going to be able to handle it. That's where neediness starts to come in, because now there's an emotional attachment to outcome. But as soon as you can work through that emotional attachment to outcome, like what we've talked about throughout this video, then that's where neediness goes away. And so from a place of working through all of this and not being needy, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to contact him? Do you want to not contact him? Whatever is totally fine. As long as, unless there's been some sort of agreement, like, hey, I'm not going to contact you anymore. I'm not going to talk to you for a month or something, or whatever it is. But, it sounds like you want to contact him. So first, do the work that we talked about. Second of all, ask yourself, what is it you want to do from this place of non-attachment? And then from there, go ahead and do that. Next up, we have Sarah. Thank you very much, Sarah. Sarah says, hi, Clay. It's been 5 months since we broke up from our 3-year relationship and 6-year friendship. We meet once a week to do something fun in the city, to work on getting back together. He says he looks forward more and more to seeing me and really enjoys my company, but he apologizes that it's been taking longer than I hope to get back together. Oh, wow. So it's like right out in the open that he knows this. Okay. My problem is that I don't know how to reach emotional connection when we already know each other so incredibly well. and I don't know how to flirt. I feel like flirting would help, but I also feel so awkward. Um, okay, and that's what you got there. Okay, so first of all, I think it's interesting that he is aware that you want to get back together. That's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think in a lot of ways it could maybe be good, because it means that he's still interacting with you and still enjoying spending time with you, and he's still doing this knowing that you want to get back together. It shows that there's some real interest on his part as well too. When it comes to the emotional connection, what I would recommend that you do is to, yeah, you've known each other for a while, but that's no excuse to just say, hey, there's no way to connect emotionally. We already know everything about each other. Like you can connect with someone emotionally that you've known for ages and ages. It's totally fine. You can do this. You just have to take a curiosity in what's going on. I mean, there's always things happening in our lives, in our individual lives, in the world. I mean, hey, it's 2022, year 3 of the apocalypse, I guess. There's no shortage of opinions on current events. And, you can always say like, hey, what do you think about this thing that's happening? Or, hey, such and such a thing happened at work. Like, what do you think I should do? Or what would you do in that situation? Like, there's no shortage of things here. And that's an incredibly powerful way to go about doing that. Of course, as you go ahead and pull things down to that emotional level, that's then the ability to connect, the opportunity to connect. Because, sure, we can connect on superficial things like, hey, how's the weather? Oh, did you see the thing on the news? I ran into so-and-so, they said blah, blah, blah. But what actually really does bond us all in a much deeper way than superficial things is our emotions. Because, you may live somewhere that I've never been. I may have had some experience you've never had, all that sort of stuff. And maybe we can't necessarily relate to each other in that respect. But one thing that all of us, everyone here watching this video, has in common is that we've all felt the same emotions. Like pretty much all of us have felt the whole spread of emotions: happiness, sadness, anxiety, fear, everything else in between. And we can connect on that emotional level. And that can bring an even deeper emotional connection than might already be there. And then, of course, when you are connected in that deeper sense, that's really the prime opportunity to do something like flirting. It's really easy to take that connection that you have and leverage it for a flirtatious sort of experience, by basically just doing something that like a sibling or a parent would not do. Like if a sibling or a parent would do something, that's probably not going to get you out of that sort of platonic vibe. But flirting is going to be something that takes you to that next level. And, it doesn't have to be anything huge. It can just be something like saying like, hey, the way that you describe that is really, turning me on, or something like that. And that could be a way to just sort of test for interest. And again, you don't necessarily want to see like an A causes B kind of event there. Maybe it does happen, I don't know. But it can easily just be like, hey, you said something, the conversation went on as normal, but then later on something romantic happened or something like that. So be open to that as well too. But if you want to learn more about how to do all the connection and the flirting stuff, that's probably best done in the X Solution program over at modernlove.life/ESP. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. We have Joy. Oh, there we go. This is going to have to be the last one. So I do have some other stuff I have to do here in a little bit. So please, no more super chats for today, please. I do appreciate them very much, but I do have another call I have to prepare for here shortly. But Joy, where is it? Says, it has been 5 days since I've spoken to my ex-fiance, since having a same team phone call. He thanked me for what I said, and I have not heard back since. Is this a bad sign? Not necessarily. Oftentimes after having a same team conversation, it's going to, it's very easy for people to agree to these sorts of things. But they're not going to necessarily know what that means in a practical day-to-day sense. Does that mean that we talk every day? Does that mean that I open up and share everything in my life to you? Does that mean that this happens? Does that mean that happens? And they're going to feel a little bit uncertain. And so you're going to have to be okay with sort of setting the tone, at least at first, to show him what it looks like in a practical day-to-day sense of being on the same team. Because, people can say, yeah, I agree, we can be on the same team. But in terms of what does that look like on a daily basis? What does that look like in terms of how we, interact with one another on a consistent basis? That's something that you have to most likely demonstrate to them so that they can then see, okay, it means that we can just casually talk, every day or every couple of days, or it's okay for us to do the, little good morning text or good night text that some people do every day, or it's okay for us to do whatever, but just basically assume that you're on the same team, and then assume that whatever you're going to do is totally normal, and then, see how he responds. If he responds by pulling back or something like that, talk it out with him, anchor back to that same team conversation and talk it out with him. But if left on their own, most people would just sort of default back to whatever they were doing in terms of how they were interacting with you before the same team conversation. So you're going to have to really be okay with setting that tone as you move forward. Okay. With that being said, thank you so much. Once again, there is going to be a link for that subliminal recording down in the description box as soon as I finish the live stream and put it down there. But once again, thank you so much. Take care. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, help me out with my low self-esteem by leaving a comment down below, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.